Welcome to this edition of Time Stackies Friday Plus Plus. I'm Sujit John, and I have with me my colleague Shilpa Fadnis. The two of us will moderate this discussion that we are doing in partnership with HP Enterprise and Ingram Micro. We hope you and your families are staying safe and doing well. Our discussion today is on bringing organizational apps and data to the cloud. And we are going to particularly focus on the emergence of a relatively new form of IT infrastructure offering that combines in many ways the benefits of on-premise data centers and the public cloud. This new form looks extremely promising. To discuss this, we have with us three seasoned professionals. We have with us Nilotpal Kumar Datta. Nilotpal is Director for GreenLake Cloud Services for India in Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Nilotpal has been with HPE for 20 years. He has an overall experience of over 25 years, of which over 20 have been leading sales teams. He has worked extensively across industry segments and regions. He has wide experience in managing large accounts, complex deals, and large sales teams. Prior to HPE, Nilotpal was with Wipro and HCL. Nilotpal has even authored 2 novels. Wow. Welcome, Nilotpal.
Thank you, Sujit. Pleasure to be here.
Those novels, what were they on?
Oh, okay. I wrote the first one, which is largely on my own experience, which is called In Retrospect, My Growing Up Experience. But I wrote a very proper fiction, which is Everything and Nothing, which is based in pre-partition Bengal. And its protagonist is a lady. And how after Noakhali, right, she comes to India, settles, and how again there are a lot of setbacks. So very well received, the second one, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. How long ago was that?
This was 2019,
Okay.
and the first one was 2014.
Okay. Wow. Shilpa?
We have with us Sebastian Prabhaharan. Sebastian is Head of Engineering at Education Technology Venture Career Labs. Career Labs are pioneering profile building platforms to help students prepare for professional life beyond college. Prior to joining Career Labs, Sebastian led the Digital Transformation Initiative for CVS, one of the largest pharmacy chains in the US. It included the migration of all apps data into the cloud. He has experience in working in startups and large-scale enterprises. Welcome, Sebastian.
Yeah, thank you, Shilpa. Happy to be part of this session.
Thank you, Sebastian. And we have with us Dipanshu Sharma. He's going to be joining us in a few moments. Dipanshu is Deputy General Manager at Ingram Micro. He's a product management professional with more than 14 years of experience in business management, product development, product lifecycle management. He has been with Ingram Micro for almost 11 years. Prior to that, he was with Ticona Digital Networks and Reliance Communications. We'll soon welcome Dipanshu to the Time Stackies webinar. Those of you who are viewing this can send in questions through the Facebook comment box. Sujit and I will put them to Nilotpal, Sebastian, and Dipanshu. Nilotpal, can I come to you first? If you can help us set the context, and we'll open it up for questions.
So thank you, Shilpa. Today every organization is actually looking at a cloud-like experience, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot from Sebastian on this. And when I say cloud-like experience, at the center of it is data. There is a lot of unpredictability in the way the data is growing. And when I say unpredictability, it more in terms of how you gather data and how you accumulate data. And this unpredictability can only be addressed through methods which are linked to consumption. Because when you build your IT systems, today. You cannot have a very monolithic architecture. The architecture has to be such that it caters to a consumption pattern, and it grows the way you want it to grow with your data acquisition, etc. Then second, and pandemic probably has made us look at things a little differently. People want environment which can be managed by somebody else. It's very difficult today to be in a landscape where the management is with you with very limited access, the way we saw at least some time back in very, very tough times. Then also, with especially emergence of analytics, and analytics at each stage, at times analytics is a point solution. And so you also need infrastructure, a part of which can scale up and down, where you have an IT infrastructure and you don't need that IT infrastructure for a long time. You can scale it up and down. So all of this, if you see, can actually be delivered either by a public cloud or at least something which is similar to public cloud in its experience. And that is the new model that we see emerging, and leading which is HP GreenLake, which is our consumption-based, platform-optimized, workload-optimized solution. And this is where a customer can have all of whatever I spoke about in terms of self-service, consumption based service managed by somebody else, scaling up and down, either in his premise or in a colo data center, something very akin to a public cloud offering. Yeah,
so in some sense, it's a private, it's yours in some sense, yet it's has a cloud-like experience when the customer actually uses it.
absolutely, Sujit. It's a private cloud which is in your premise, but at the same time, you only pay for what you use. You pay on your consumption, and it is managed externally by GreenLake Management Services. So it is the infrastructure is not owned by you, because it's end of the day a service delivered by HP, but it is within your premise. So it is within your security framework. The data is under your protection, or if you want to move it to a co-location data center, you can put it in a co-location data center as well.
Okay. Jeb, I mean, you've been in both large organizations, very large organizations, and now a startup. Give us your experiences of using the cloud.
Yeah. So, my experience, right? So when we actually talk about cloud, I think the first thing comes to, most of our mind is actually public clouds, right? Either, the dominant ones like AWS, Azure, or Google, right? And then the reason we look at cloud is, there are benefits it actually brings to a startup as well as large organizations, right? But I'll, go on the startup angle first. It gets us off the ground, on day one, right? And with no longer commitment. So we can actually jump into it right away. And it gives us a lot of agility to get started and, keep going, right? We can scale up, scale down, and we pay for what we use, right? So that's the, great benefit for a startup to do a lot of experimentation and actually figure out whether we are building the right set of products. On large organizations, obviously there is a lot more to it in terms of compliance, security, and how do we keep the data? All of that actually comes into play, right? And there was an initial hesitation of moving to larger clouds, especially of looking into cloud from a larger organization perspective, right? And obviously the cost running it over a period of time also plays a major role when we start looking at a stable Blaze products on the cloud.
You're saying go large in your previous organizations, which were large enterprises. What was your experience of using on-premise systems? Whether they're continuing to do that, I do not know. This was some years ago. But Dipanshu, give us an idea. I mean, what are your different customers thinking? What makes sense in what context?
Yeah, first of all, I'm so sorry I joined a little late due to some technical stuff. So Sujit, if you at Ingram Micro, we our logo, our motto is that we realize the promise of technology, and our collaboration and alliance with HP is where we really work on cut through technology and the way we provide the services to the customer. If the trend which all Jeb and Nilotpal has mentioned, it is absolutely same. Whether we are talking about infrastructure, whether we are talking about even networking now, even we see in the edge domain the requirements of other services coming in. So the requirements of a customer is really unpredictable. Normally, if we go to a customer, we ask them what is their workload, they may come up with a number. But actually, if that is their workload, we may not know. For example, the example which you gave of Flipkart, during their big billion day sale, whether they want to work on the same workload or they want to work on a higher workload, that is something which they have to provide for. And how do they provide for? Either they go to the additional cloud, or they invest on additional infrastructure. So I think the beauty which the HP GreenLake system is bringing is committed in the additional capacity. And I was actually visiting one of the customer last week, and I actually realized that this is something which a startup is something, is what they are looking for. They are looking for spurt in their usage, and the more they have the spurt in their usage, the more predictability they want to bring in. And that is where, we take pride in ourselves. We have very strong channel partner ecosystem in place, who can, provide them technical information along with the likes of HPE, by which customers' actual requirement can be realized, understood, and delivered. What has been happening right now is that they know what they need, but they don't know whether that will work for them. So that is where, we believe that some of the features which, GreenLake is offering, like GreenLake Central, and some, I think Nilotpal will cover that. That is something which can help customers make a very, very predictable future, requirements very clearly slated.
Okay. Jeb,
Yeah.
you want to ask, convince yourself about the value of, you could ask Nilotpal some questions if you like.
Yeah, definitely, Sujit. I'm like, I was waiting to ask the question. So when we compare, like public cloud, right, with an offering like yours, right? So, we, talk about a lot of things, right? So like we don't actually like maintain anything. So we kind of like bring up VMs, or like, build a network, right, using like a, portal, and actually set it up, and we start using it, right? So how easy to use or easy to set up is, is your offering?
So see, we have the same, we have a portal, which is GreenLake Central, which is at the heart of the system, the heart of technology. And GreenLake Central as a portal allows you, on workloads, like suppose if it's a private cloud workload, it allows you to go ahead and provision infrastructure the way you want. And it is all templatized. So if you want to create a VM, you go ahead and use that blueprint and you launch your VM, and the associated network, everything, whatever is in the background, gets aligned and it gets launched. It just like you would have otherwise done in public cloud. So there is no difference. What GreenLake Central also does is it has API written with both AWS and Azure, and I think the GCP is also in process, and it integrates with that. And so if you want a singular view, which is for both your how your consumption is happening and how you're paying across multi-cloud platform, and currently, like I said, both AWS and Azure, and your private cloud GreenLake environment, that also you can get. So it is just like public cloud. GreenLake Central allows you to do all of that.
Got it. And so I think the second, the biggest aspect of using, public cloud is, hey, for any, software upgrades, right? Like on the OS at that level, right? It's kind of taken care by the platform itself, right? We can, easily switch to a, like a later version and move our workloads much easily. How is that handled on your platform?
So, Jeb, like I said in the beginning, the GreenLake Central is nothing but it gives you a cloud-like experience on premise. So everything that you currently see that a public cloud delivers, our entire intent and effort is to ensure that you get the same, in here. So, for instance, we spoke about consumption, we spoke about self-service provisioning, etc. And as far as management is concerned, so we have a GreenLake Management Services Center, and good thing is that the most of it operates out of India. A large manpower actually operates out of India. It's a global center. And when you sign a GreenLake contract, along with it, what is bundled is GreenLake Management Services. And, whatever updates, upgrades, etc., which is required, till the level that GreenLake offers you, in the sense that if suppose today I'm offering you private cloud, and on top of that, if you are running your own application, any specific application, then that application gets, is not as a part of scope unless you want us to specifically do that. But below that, everything else, updates, upgrades, monitoring, managing is done remotely through GreenLake Management Services.
Okay, got it. And the other, like important aspect of having like a public cloud is the, the data centers, which are actually like, distributed and which are available much closer to, where we want, right? So how do you, like handle those situations? So where is your, do we say for a startup like us, right? So do we need to buy our servers and have it on-prem, and then the HP GreenLake runs on top of it, or what is the viable option?
So essentially, HP GreenLake is an option which is on-premise. Okay, and when I'm saying on-premise, it is, what I mean is the data center which a customer would have created, and especially in large organizations going through huge application modernization, etc. There has been fair amount of investment which has gone into the data center space, and so we use customers' data center where they want us to use. Now, if a customer doesn't want to use a data center, and we have seen, in the pandemic period, a lot of customers actually wanting to move out of data center, or a startup, where a startup would not want to consume real estate for an activity like this. We have partnerships across multiple cloud service providers, and when I'm saying cloud service providers, the likes of a Tata Communications, SIFI, controllers, etc. And depending on where a customer wants his data to reside, for instance, suppose if you want your data to reside in Bangalore, we go ahead and check with all our partners as to who has availability where, which is the closest to the customer office, and in the way the customer would want, and then we accordingly go ahead and house it there. So either it is customer's own data center or through a partner network of, and when it is a partner network, the ownership still lies with us.
Got it. Okay. And in terms of bringing in expertise, right? So if we like talk about Microsoft Azure or like AWS, so bringing in like a talent and actually the knowledge base is like readily available. There are like like enormous partner programs, and there are like a lot of certifications which are available, right? So how do you like address that like in your like platform?
So two things. One is we have our own certification programs which a customer could do, and also that is in case the customer doesn't want us to manage. But in case a customer wants us to manage, and if we manage it through GreenLake Management Services, then we have a pool of certified. So if it is around virtualization or OS, Linux, or any of these areas within GreenLake Management Services, we have a certified set of resources, and they manage it. So I have never seen that as an issue, because see, if you see as an organization, while the likes of AWS, Azure are newer technology companies, I'm not saying Microsoft, but Microsoft has had a very focused, specific approach. But I'm saying if you look at AWS or Google, but we've been in the technology business for decades and decades and decades, and so that skill availability, etc., has never been an issue, and that we completely keep it within GreenLake Management Services. But we have our own certification programs should a customer want to train his own manpower.
Got it.
Have you done TCO studies and all that to compare these kind of concepts with the other one, Nilotpal?
So see, every customer that we interact with wants us to do a TCO calculation. Okay, and the TCO calculation is largely based on, I'm saying it's not a public cloud versus because that is not a calculation, because we somewhere believe that people who want to invest in an on-premise or a co-located GreenLake kind of a model would have some motivating reason. A motivating reason could be that he would want his data to reside in his control, or it could be security, or it could be even things like public cloud bill is becoming very high. So I'm saying we don't normally do that comparison, but in case that comparison has to be done, we can do that. But what we typically do a comparison is that if you were to buy a complete CapEx equipment, that if you are to buy something today, because typically how does a customer buy? A customer buys keeping 3 or 4 years in mind, and that is how he builds his infrastructure. So when we do a TCO calculation, what we do is we say that you don't buy for 4 or 5 years, just buy for your immediate requirement, because there are a lot of uncertainties involved both ways in terms of growth as well as the degrowth. And hence we do a TCO calculation. Should you invest in a model which is consumption linked versus if you were to buy a capex? How does the overall TCO look like? That we keep doing with customers. But at the same time, if we want to do a comparison with public cloud, I think it's more of maths only.
Okay. Dipanshu, you also help with all this TCO things and all that when you sell to customers, or you leave it to the brands?
So as Nilotpal mentioned that it's at the end of it, it's all maths, and it's important that you know whom we are talking to. Let's say if you are talking to the CTO or the CIO, then we talk about technology and its usage. But if we are talking to the CFO, yes, the TCO model gets plugged in, and you know I believe some of the tech webinars which you know HP has done, CFOs has appreciated the model in which the TCO over a period of let's say 5 years have been you know kind of sets better than a traditional capex model or let's say any other you know recurring service model.
Okay. Shilpa, anything?
Yeah,
Jeff,
in terms of adoption of from SMB customers, you know, if you can talk about Nilotpal, how are they embracing it, and you know, what is their transformation roadmap?
So see, if you look at SMB customers, first is an SMB customer is obviously challenged with his own data center. You know, they don't have a data center. So they would ideally want to be somewhere else. And all this while they have been, looking at the likes of not a public cloud, but data center service providers. So a large number of customers that currently are with the likes of TCL, CFIs, controllers of the world are actually SMB customers. And they were also the people who, moved on to public cloud. Now, with partnerships with, again, TCL, CFI, controllers, etc., we see a huge willingness from these SMB customers to actually come over to a model like this.
Okay. Jeb, I want to ask you this cyber security. I mean, I'm told, I mean, it's not as simple as simply going into a public cloud. I mean, even though they claim security, etc., you yourself also have to do a lot of things to ensure that, for you, everything remains safe. How complicated is all of that?
So when we actually it's, there are two aspects to it, right? So one, having your own servers, setting up, on a physical space. And then you are actually protecting it, right? So that's the the initial data center model, right? On-premise data center model, right? And when we actually go to cloud, it's actually a shared infrastructure, but still you have to set up your applications within that, right? So the rules changes on how you are securing your applications and data, and along with the expertise which actually comes with it, right? So when we say a physical infrastructure, you kind of have all the expertise to protect it and keep upgrading towards the latest things which are happening in the space, right? But when we are going to a cloud provider, there are certain parts we rely on the provider itself to provide as a secure infrastructure, and then there is an application security part, application and data security practices which we need to actually be know and implement those security policies, right? So it's like protecting your physical building and the infrastructure inside it versus you are on a rented place, but still you are protecting your applications and data, right? So
you need tech people inside as well to handle this kind of
complexity. So on the application level and data level, it is still relies, a lot of that relies with the application building teams, right?
Yeah. Okay. The initial days of cloud, I mean, at least the public cloud providers made it look like, okay, you can just come on to us, everything will be safe, we'll protect it, etc., etc.
No, I wouldn't agree with that.
Now we increasingly find, everybody is saying that you need expertise inside as well to all those configurations, etc.
Yeah.
How is it with GreenLake, Nilotpal? How does it work? The same principles work there as well?
From a security standpoint? So, if you go to a data center service provider, then obviously you have to rely on the data center service provider security, whatever they build. But, if it is on premise, then it is with the customer. And what we do is we do security monitoring from GreenLake management if it is in your data center, and so that responsibility is with us. We provide it as a service.
Oh, okay. Nilotpal, do you want to ask Jeb any question on what will
Yeah, I obviously thought I'll take this opportunity because some India's startup story has been very good, and that is something which all of us look at with a lot of pride. And I genuinely believe that cloud service providers played a very good role because many of these, even today when we work with a lot of these application guys, and their initial offering is on cloud. Cloud gives you at least that flexibility to start small, fail. If you fail, then you wouldn't have invested a huge amount of money. But at the same time, when we are having conversations with startups who have reached some velocity, they are also now relooking at strategies. So I wanted to understand from Jeb, like at what stage, do you actually, if you do, you relook at your strategy, whether would you want to keep all apps, entire workload on public cloud, or would you want to, bring some of it, onto a private cloud, either hosted, in premise or with a data center service provider, and what would be the motivating reasons?
Yeah, I think so you have two questions. So I'll go one by one. So the first thing, see, when we are as we talked about in detail the advantages of public cloud for a startup, right? So once we actually reach a stage, hey, and we figured out our infrastructure, figured out our product line, and we exactly know what is going to be running and how our infrastructure is going to be. At that point in time, from my previous experience, the cost will become a critical factor to decide to look at offering yours, right? So it is not a lot of experimentation, but we kind of have reached a stable state. Then it's actually a good place to start looking at it, right? Because I looked at the pricing and comparisons, some of them offerings are very attractive, right? To run things like that, right? But obviously when we are moving into a newer offering or less popular offering, in terms of comparison, right? It's HP is in the industry for long enough, but in the cloud space, in terms of relative comparison, when we are exploring something new, we would like to take smaller steps, right? Say, hey, one of the new applications which we are building, we could actually start there, right? So, and then say maybe our lower environments can move, right, for cost reasons, if the cost is actually a differentiator, right? So those would be two aspects I would personally start looking at in terms of looking at an offering yours.
Okay. I have another question, which is more of a knowledge that I would want to acquire. You spoke about a certification, and you said there is a larger ecosystem which is developed around AWS, Azure certification, etc. Now, if I'm a public cloud user, and when I'm looking at public cloud, just like for instance, if I store my data somewhere, I don't need to bother about as to how it is getting managed and things like that, So why should you, as a user, I'm saying as a user, not at an individual level, at an organization level, why this thought that you should have trained engineers? Shouldn't it be the complete responsibility of a public cloud guy, and you should not at all worry about it?
No, I think, see, where we would actually need that expertise, right? So if you are say if you are spinning up a secure network, right, we need somebody who understands how to set up a VPC, right?
Oh, okay.
And it is more on that provisioning and actually setting up the environment to run our applications, right? So if we somebody is spinning up a VM or creating a database, we want to make sure the right policies are put in place, right? The right firewalls are in, right? All those things are actually put in place, right?
Okay. It is more of operational.
Yes, operational.
Not that you would need Linux trained people and so on.
No. No, it is more of an operational. I think most of the certifications cover that way. So that's one. And then there are specific offering we will use from each of the cloud providers, right? Like, there will be like a, queue service. There will be like, lot of these services, which, these platforms provide, which again is a very quick way of getting some of the, like tasks done, right? Like being it like a messaging service or an authentication service. There are a lot of such, the ecosystem provides a lot of those offerings, right? So we will also be using those, to develop our applications and actually like, run it there.
Oh, okay. So then if that was the point, see, we have, as far as that part of training is concerned, that is never an issue, with us, because we have HP Education Services which does that and beyond. But when I answered you, it was more of, Linux-based skill set and,
No.
so on and so forth, which was, so, yeah.
I think like those are like hardly.
Therefore, I was wondering
Yeah.
that why would you be so bothered about it? Because, it's like shut it and forget it types. It should ideally be that. Yeah.
Those skills are not needed in the cloud, as much as it used to be.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And if you're building, Jeb, if you're building on AWS, let's say, I don't know where, how would it be difficult to, let's say, if you wanted to shift to GreenLake, would it be difficult?
So the way, like we, like build the applications, right? So there is, even with public clouds, we want to build our applications in a way that we could port it to a different cloud provider, right? So
you can.
Yeah, we can. With, obviously there will be efforts, but we would like to keep that effort as minimal as possible.
As minimum as possible.
Right? So that's how we have architected.
So this is possible with all of the cloud providers, is it? You can do it in a way that you can kind of minimize that portability.
Yes, there are ways. Yeah, there are ways and architectural principles where we can use so that the portability is actually like easier, right? So there are like standard standards which are available, and all of these cloud providers actually like support those standards. So we can port the applications from one place to another. So that's like our core and critical workloads, we design it that way, right? So like Docker and Kubernetes, they are like open source and open standards, all providers support, right? So our core logic and a lot of our work will be done on that. And if, say, for example, in like HP also like gives us ability to run and port applications from our these standard supports, then it will be again it will be easier to migrate them into the new platform as well.
Nilottapal, you provide help and all that.
Yeah, so so this is a very 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 relevant issue. Especially in maybe in a startup ecosystem more, because if you see large organizations, they have very established applications, many of them legacy. It's the same SAP, which also doesn't allow you too much of a customization. So they're there for, but especially with organizations like Career Labs, and there are a lot of intelligent people around, right? So there are a lot of this intelligent work that happens, and there are a lot of this thinking which would have gone in constructing an application. So we have a dedicated infrastructure in Houston, which is basically what we say try and buy. And so if a customer wants to bring his application, test it in that environment, we give it for 90 days. And we also have manpower, trained manpower around it, in terms of people specialized in various kind of applications and technologies, and we help you see if it can run in an environment, in a GreenLake environment, which is more of outside of public cloud. And then if it works, we help you put it across in your own private cloud GreenLake environment. But yes, and we, what the point that you made, and what Jeb answered, is something which is very, very, very real. And many of the new age companies won't want to go ahead and invest until unless they have tested that. They are sure that this is going to work. And if you don't provide support in that, then actually there is no opportunity itself.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed some of the big wins globally. So far, of course, that must be some big Barclays and
we announced Barclays yesterday.
National Security Agency. NSA also was a fairly recent
one. Yeah,
one.
NSA actually is a huge contract, and it is almost a 2 billion contract for us over a period of 10 years.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and we announced Barclays yesterday. I think Barclays is migrating multiple workloads onto HP GreenLake.
Okay. Dipanshu, what are you seeing? I mean, India demand for this kind of this form of IT infrastructure delivery.
I actually, I want to ask one question actually to Jeb. Jeb, if you can touch upon, we keep on meeting a lot of customers, a lot of startup, and they kind of not sure about how they want to get their technology, roadmap created. So what kind of messaging will you have for a startup, let's say a 50 or 100 user organization, on, how they can set up an IT infra? And once they, as Nilotpal, and you said that, they want to test it out, and then as and when they become predictable, they want to commit. So what kind of messaging do you believe would be, or, what kind of strategy they should kind of incorporate? Because it's something which they don't know how to manage. They are tech guys or, some technology guys. Yeah.
Right. So if, if you don't have a specific technology expertise, right? If you go into cloud, you can very quickly burn your purse, right? That can happen to, just overnight, you can just spend a lot of money if you spend incorrect infrastructure, right? So, my recommendation is actually to go with, there are a lot of partner organizations which kind of help and guide in this journey, right? Because when a partner actually comes in, either be it on a public cloud or, an offering like, HP, we are discussing extensively, right? So you always go with somebody who is actually a part of your journey and, who is going to guide you in your, success, right? Because that's where the partner organization, helps a lot. And, they can help you to start, and they can understand your need, right? And they can actually tell you when you would need what level of infrastructure, and all of that guidance they can actually give, right? So, and, obviously, you want to start small and use what you actually need, right? If you're even buying a lot of things on cloud, it is going to be expensive, right? So start with the partner organization and then take somebody to guide you on that journey if you don't have that expertise in house.
Yeah, well said, Jay.
Shilpa?
Yeah, Dipanshu, coming to you in terms of Ingram Micro itself, they are morphing from an e-commerce platform to an omni-channel experience provider, right? So if you can help us understand the kind of technologies and the scaling that you're doing internally as well, because you're delivering personalized experiences, right?
Yes. So as in case, let's say with OEM, let's say with HP, where they want to provide a solution to the customer so that they can focus on their core area. So as Ingram Micro, being a global organization, we work on a lot of global standards, and in India we have enabled our channel with multiple tools. So some of those tools have been that they need not have to share us. Let's say orders through a manual process. So there's an e-commerce portal which we have created, through which it's kind of a B2B platform for these channel partners, through which they can have their order processed. And importantly is that some of the customers have requirements on multi-year contracts or multi-year support. There we have Ingram Micro Financial Services. So from a technology standpoint, these are some of the enablers which we are giving it to a channel, and we have seen the propensity of them embracing such solutions and passing it on to their customers, and customer appreciating it and getting on board with those solutions has been very frequent. And thanks to the likes of HP and some of the very strong alliances which we have with large OEM, these synergies which we have created along with our internal solutions, we have tasted great success.
Okay. Jeb, I don't want to specifically talk about CVS, but generally, I mean, what core applications and all that, what was the thinking? Would you still keep it inside, or even that you're looking at public cloud and all that?
Yeah, so it's from large enterprises perspective, right? Not specific to CVS, because I was working with a lot of such companies before. So I think people are realizing the benefit of cloud, right? So it's having your applications run on your own data center is actually you have challenges, and you don't have the agility of moving faster, right? Innovate faster. So the large organizations, critical workload and data, I think people are moving towards cloud, right? I don't see any resistance to that so far. There was a brief period of resistance from a financial institutions and from a data security perspective, but I think now that's gone, right? Like pretty much people are going into the cloud everywhere. You can see that, right? So I don't see an issue in terms of moving critical applications into cloud. But I think it's an evolving space, right? So it's becoming a norm these days.
Okay. Nilotpal, any India, I mean, like Barclays and NSA and all that, India, what have you seen? Any big names that you can talk about?
Yeah, a lot of big names, and I'll just add to what Jeb said. I completely agree. The only thing is, I always say that cloud is more of an experience. So when you say cloud, it could be private cloud or public cloud. And, as long as whatever a public cloud offers you, and that is what large organizations also want. And some of the, many of these names are not referenceable. So I will tell you a few that, recently we implemented ONGC. I think that is referenceable. Which where the complete SAP landscape, their core SAP is on a GreenLake platform. So it's on a consumption model. It's a 10-year contract. In the 6th year, we refresh after 5 years, and we charge them on the HANA portion. We charge them on a per GB basis, and as and when they get their peripheral applications also into the core database, the HANA database will grow. But for the fact that there is always a delay factor into it, they didn't want to build one large architecture. So they are starting with what they need now, and which is going to grow as and when they grow, their data grows and they consume. And then it's a very, very large project. It's a large project, and where we are managing security, we are building a security network for them. We are doing a complete network of their data center. And all of this is on GreenLake. So when when we are doing a network for them, we are charging them on a per port basis. If you're doing a firewall with them, we are again charging them on a per port basis. The application layer, we are charging them either on a per VM basis or on a per server basis. We have done similarly something I can't name for a very large pharma company, two of the largest pharma companies in India, where we manage their entire core systems on GreenLake. We've done it for a large two-wheeler auto company. Actually, two of the largest auto companies in India. One, we manage their entire IT landscape today is on GreenLake. For the other, the R&D setup is on GreenLake, where because in an auto sector, R&D can also be very consumption driven, because you launch a project, you need an infrastructure, and there is an unpredictability linked to it, that when you need that, and hence there is a consumption factor, and hence there is a cloud-like experience, so on and so forth. We are doing very well in SMB also. Like I said, SMB doesn't want their own data center, and hence GreenLake with a partner data center service provider is an alternative to a public cloud. And that is one thing where we are seeing. We are seeing good traction now in finance also, BFSI. But what is the interesting thing that is happening is that sometime back, everything was infrastructure as a service. And now if you look at things, people are talking workloads. So, people are talking about HANA as a service, people are talking about VDI as a service, MLOps as a service, backup as a service, DR as a service. And these are specific service offerings to India market that we are currently offering. So I see lot of traction, within India. And, from an HP standpoint, we've said that in another 2 years, we're going to be everything as a service company. And now you see, whether it is a Dell or a Cisco, everybody is into a consumption-based service. So I think the whole market is moving in that direction.
We all have started similar offerings, is it?
They have all started. While we started quite some time back, but they have all started, because I think somewhere the market is, because see, people realize that everybody today needs a cloud-like experience for the reasons that Jeb said. And there are pros and cons of everything. There are pros and cons of public cloud also, and that is what somewhere needs to be handled in a private cloud environment.
So these concepts like serverless and all that, can you introduce that here as well?
Yeah, so everything is a service only now. So in the backend, because earlier I remember when we used to go to a customer, he would say that, no, I need a blade server or I need this CPU. Everything is now, becomes irrelevant, because as long as I'm able to give you your SLA, as long as I'm able to give a VM, you are able to, and I'm able to deliver performance to you. I think in the backend, just like a public cloud, how I'm building is immaterial, and that is what GreenLake also is. How I design is on us. What a customer tells us is pure SLA that he needs, and then we design in the background, and then we go ahead and tell him this is how we're going to meter, this is how you can provision, this is the self-service part of it, and this is how we're going to charge you.
So with SIFI and controllers and all that, what do you tell them? We need so much. You need to keep a buffer for everybody, all your customers.
No, we just tell them that we need rack space.
Mm-hmm.
We need so much of real estate. That's all. And obviously,
so they reserve a portion of it for you, is it?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they just like anybody else would have done. So we take that. They give us a fee for it. We bake that fee into an overall GreenLake construct, and we take it to the customer.
Okay. Shilpa, anything?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody wants to ask anybody else any question?
Yeah.
Maybe one. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jay, please.
Yeah. One like question to Nilotpal. So the public clouds give a lot of offerings and credits for the startups, right? So you spoke about the try and buy program, and do you guys have something to compete the public cloud offering vendors for startups?
You got a lot of credits and all, is it? All these AWS, Azure and all?
They give a lot of credit, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they give us a lot of credit, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Equivalent to, can you put that in rupees or something?
No, I think that is very dependent on how we use it.
Uh-huh.
So, they, like offer for an year worth of year and a half worth of, our consumption for, for us to be on the platform.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So straight answer is not to that magnitude. Okay. We understand this, and we are trying to work something in that direction. But currently what we do is that if somebody wants to move to a private cloud experience, then whatever manpower is required to help you do it is obviously on us. We don't go ahead and tell you, and even if it fails or something, we don't charge. But Jeff, free credit, you need deeper pockets for it.
I know.
You're saying you don't have deeper pockets. HPE doesn't have deeper pockets. Does Ingram Micro offer anything from their side?
We are the distributors. The principals have to support us.
No, but having said that, see, we understand this, and especially in a startup ecosystem, it becomes very, very important because, for the sheer fact they experiment so much, it's designed to fail and succeed, so and the moment somebody gives you free credit, the first thing that comes to your mind is it stretches your ability to experiment, or ability to sustain for us. So we understand we are working in that direction. Don't have a clear answer now, but, it is something which we are working on. This point has come earlier as well, from customers. So we are working in that direction.
Okay, working in that direction. Good. So great discussion. Yeah, interesting new for these kinds of formats emerging. Yeah, we heard this from Nutanix as well. That's another company that's been pushing for these kinds of offerings. Yeah. So I know earlier we just imagined the world between pure private on-premise versus a public cloud, but now several of these intermediary forms emerging. Interesting to see how all of this will go. I guess it will be a mix of all of them depending on customers' comfort levels and all of that, budgets and things. So, and thanks a lot, Nilotpal, Jeb, Dipanshu. Very nice having you on the platform. Great discussion. We'll be happy to have you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank you,
Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Shilpa. It's been a pleasure.
And maybe
It
we'll
was-
connect Jeff.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.